Kimani Joseph na mimi ni mkaaji wa Nakuru. Nachukua fursa hii kushukuru wote waliopendekeza impeachment ya Rigathi Gachagua. Ukweli ni kwamba tumeenda mambo yote yenye wamekuwa wakilete, lakini hakuna hata moja wako na evidence ya kutosha that Rigathi Gachagua ako na makosa. Maybe expectations za wabunge, expectations za senators walikuwa wanafikiria ati wa Kenya itafika mahali wapigane kama ya 2007. Hii haitakubalika. I'm talking like a resident of Nakuru County. Nakuru City is a cosmopolitan city. Iko na makabila zote zenye zinaishi hii Kenya. Kama expectations zao walikuwa wanagojea ati after impeachment ati tutashikana tuanza kupigana wa Kalenjin, wa Kikuyu, wa Luya, wa Jaluo na kabila zote za Kenya. Hiyo wasahau. Tumekuwa na elimu ingine tofauti na yenye tulikuwa nayo that time. So expectations zao kama ilikuwa hivyo wasahau.
Jina langu ni Philip Wanjohi, mkazi wa Nakuru. I want to wish him well, lakini jinsi ambavyo tumeona president anafanya kazi, angependa kufanya kazi peke yake, anakuambia fanya hivi, fanya hivi. Ni kama ambavyo ni katika shule namwambia wanafunzi stand up, sit down, toka kwa darasa na mambo kama hayo. Mnakumbuka siku moja president akisema ya kwamba wale ministers wake na PAs wafanyi kazi. Ishara tosha ya kwamba yeye mwenyewe ndiye angetaka kuambia jinsi ambavyo atafanya na wana independent mind. Lakini tunataka mtu ambaye ni Mkenya ambaye ako na independent mind kama Gachagua, ndio kazi ya Kenya iweze kuendelea.
Kwa majina naitwa Kevin Monga. Mambo ya Kidiki tunampea congratulations kwa sababu amekuwa one of the best performing CS kwa serikali. Lakini pia tunaomba bwana Kidiki asikuwa anatumiwa kama puppet. Kama ni mambo ya shareholding, ajue kwamba Mount Kenya ilivote 47% kwa hiyo serikali ya Kenya Kwanza. So hata Kidiki ajue kwamba kama ni mambo ya shareholding na hiyo hatutaacha, sababu sisi tuliingia kwa serikali na nguvu na kupeleka Rigiji nyumbani kwa sababu ya kuongea ukweli. Sisi tuko hapo kwa hiyo ukweli.
Jina yangu naitwa Daniel Maina, najulikana kama MCJJ. Na kwanza kabisa ningependa kumpatia pole zangu na kupona kwa haraka makamu wa rais Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, na niseme ya kwamba ningependa kusema kile ambacho niliona na haki kunifurahisha. Niliona seneti pamoja na bunge letu akikusanyika asubuhi na mapema hadi usiku wa manane wakiwa na bidii na juhudi sana kumtimua makamu wa rais. Ningependa kuomba wana seneti, nilisikia wengi sana, mnajua Biblia, wengi mnaweza kuwa wahumbiri, kila mmoja akisimama na quote Bible, ana quote Bible, lakini ukweli wa mambo hamfanyi vile hiyo maandiko inasema. Ningependa kuambia kwamba sisi ndiye wale tuliwachagua, na sisi ndiye wale 2027 tutakuwa pamoja na nyinyi. Wembe ni yule, na ningependa kuambia kwamba usifurahie wakati unaona mwenzako anaumia ama anafukuzwa bila sababu na bila ukweli wa maneno. Nilisikia vibaya sana wakati nimuona wakili Moite akinjiomba kwa seneti ya kwamba wapewe hadi siku ya Jumanne waweze kumleta makamu wa rais aweze kujitetea wewe mwenyewe. Wakasema wapewe dakika 5, wakaingia kwa ofisi, alafu waliporudi walikuwa wamepanga mambo yao. Wacheni niwaambie vizuri ya kwamba sisi ni wale na Mungu akituweka uhai 2027 hatumbanduki na tupo pamoja na nyinyi. Hiyo bidii mko nayo, fanyeni hiyo bidii mkitusaidia kutengeneza barabara na ile mambo ambayo inahitajika. Sasa tuko na mambo mingi sana. Tuko na mambo ya NHIF, hii mambo inaitwa sijui SHA. Hiyo yote hata watu hawajui kile kinaendelea. Kwa hivyo tunaomba tafadhali Mheshimiwa Rais, kumbuka ya kwamba uliapa hautakubali makamu wako ahangaishwe. Tumeona akitusiwa na hata vijana wengine tumewachagua tu, wengine wameingia mbunge mara ya kwanza.
Jimmy wa Kakafo, mimi ni kiongozi katika kaunti ya Nakuru. Na nikipenda kusema kwamba hatujafurahia sisi kama wakaaji wa Nakuru kwa sababu ya yale mambo ambayo tumejionea. Hatujatoka kwa TV zetu tukifuatilia kuona haki ikitendeka kwa Mheshimiwa Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, lakini haikufanyika kwa sababu hii mambo ilipangwa tangu kitambo ya kwamba siku itafika mwezi wa 10 hautapita kama Gachagua ni Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Na tunataka kusema hivi, William Ruto ulitumia Gachagua to the best of your ability kuona ya kwamba amekupatia uongozi ukaingia hiyo State House. Leo hii hakuna mtu ambaye anaweza kuamini Kenya mzima kabila yoyote ile ya kwamba leo Gachagua sio Deputy President wa Republic of Kenya. Na tungependa kukuambia chuma yako iko jikoni. Hata sisi vile ambavyo ling'oa Gachagua kupitia wabunge wachache, tuko na wingi wa kura wa kung'oa kutoka mamlaka ya kiti cha State House. Na tunataka kukuambia hivi, Sisi tumekata kauli ya kwamba kama hatutakung'oa kwa hiyo kiti kabla 2027, uchaguzi ukifika tutakung'oa katika mamlaka, uende nyumbani, kwa sababu kama vile wakaaji wa Nakuru wamesema, chapati inaiva pande zote mbili. Kama Gachagua ni baya, hata wewe ndio baya zaidi. Na hivyo ndio msimamo wetu. Hakuna makosa Gachagua alifanya ambayo ni baya kuliko ile ambayo Ruto umefanyia taifa hili. Kwa hivyo we say enough is enough. Sisi tumesema huo ndio mwisho, na wabunge wote ambao mlipiga kura ya yes kupeleka Gachagua nyumbani, mjue ya kwamba kuanzia leo sisi hatuko pamoja na nyinyi. Hayo ndio sauti ya Bwana.
Welcome to the bold analysis. There's some 3 critical narratives that we have to debunk. The first narrative is that the country is in a crisis. There is no political crisis this country is in. And so the last minute decision by the deep state to cancel Kithure Kindiki swearing-in ceremony was reached after a high-profile delegation that warned that the president risked losing it at the end of the day, because even the Chief Justice was not going to accept to swear in Kithure Kindiki if a high court still issued those conservatory orders. And yesterday, Moses Kuria, in some very disturbing tweet, was saying that those court orders doesn't matter. And you can dump them wherever you want, but at the end of the day, Kithure Kindiki has to be the deputy president moving forward. And of course, there is no problem whatsoever with that decision. The political class can impeach the deputy president Rigathi Gachagua, but the constitution must, or rather should be, respected. Because remember, Rigathi is being sent home of disobeying an oath he took. The president can also not lead in the same measure to disobey the same oath he took to protect the constitution of the Republic of Kenya. When we say it's a political office, but there is the point of the matter of impeachment. And there is something I want us to disabuse here. The feeling that I want us to explain, brother, the feeling that our parliament is manipulated and the constitution is also mutilated is putting this country in a bad place. And I know politicians are convincing the populace. When the population is saying that the charges are weak, flimsy, and do not meet the threshold, the political elites are running the narrative that impeachment is a political process and it is not a judicial process.
Sisi tunasema tu tuendelee kuombea taifa letu, lakini pia sisi viongozi tuajibike. Mimi najua hizi challenges mingi, Archbishop sijui, and I stand to be corrected. We came up with a very progressive constitution, but the way we are implementing this constitution, you can see, is making us have a lot of challenges. Mambo ya ile chapter 6, maadili ya kitaifa, kuajibika kwa viongozi, we will not be reaching in the kind of crises saa ingine tunajipata siku ya leo. And the energy that is wasted on some of these things, given the challenges ambazo hawa wananchi wanapata, we should not be expending energy on those kind of things. Tunakuwa tunatoa chakula, tunaangalia vile vijana watapata ajira, because Kenya was progressing very well. Lakini tukiwa na siasa 24/7, tunamaliza siasa, tunaanza na siasa, tunamaliza siasa, it is too a very expensive way. Maybe we will need to look for another system of governance. Kwa sababu hii, tukiendelea namna hii, Kenya will mark time. Now Uganda is a net exporter into Kenya. And Kenya used to export in the whole of East and Central. Na ukiangalia the balance of trade is in favor of our neighbors. Na ile plani zetu zote za Vision 2030, they are just told here and there, the factories are closing, policies are not right. Na yet we say to participation public. So mimi naomba tu muombe taifa, tuwajibike, we concentrate. We finish elections, tunapatia nafasi wale wamepewa kazi, wafanye kazi. Ikifika tena miaka 5, tufanye siasa. I was in America the other day. Huwezi hata kujua iko uchaguzi. Watu wanaendelea tu na kazi yao. Na iko mtu huko anaitwa Trump, matata. Lakini anang'ang'ana na ule mama, but there is no this kind of charades that we are seeing here in this republic. One issue after another. Sasa ona hii wiki mzima tumeng'ang'ana, na ingekuwa tu tunafuata ile maneno yetu, tungesema wewe kama kiongozi wajibika. Step aside, uangaliwe kama mambo ni sawa, urudi kazi yako. Lakini tunang'ang'ana ati sijui nini paka mwishoe. Wengine wanalia, wengine sijui namna gani. But that is it. We need the unity of our country and we need to bring hygiene in our politics. We can't continue like that. Having said that, wacha nichukue nafasi hii nimkaribishe waziri akuje atome hotuba ya rais. Pole za rais. Karibu sana daktari. Na nilimesahau Homa Bay team, we recognize you. Homa Bay, tafadhali tuna recognize. We know Madam Gladys is not here, but we recognize. I'm sure salamu zenyu mtapeana pale. Asanteni kwa sababu ya muda. Karibu. I hope I have done something.
So it is not a matter of proving whether this was done or no. It is a political process where you just need to allege. I disagree with this. And that is why I insist the courts needs to come in a strong way. How can you say that because it is a political process, you just need to allege, and after alleging, the majoritarian rule will be used to decide whether we go with it or not? I want to confirm something. Whatever is happening in Senate called quasi-judicial is a shenanigan. That it's some sort of a mongrel. It's a very opaque thing. And we should not lie. Whatever is happening in Senate, that someone is going to bring an evidence, this side evidence, then there is some cross-examination. Because Mwengi Mutuse could not defend even a single ground that were leveled against the deputy president. He could not. And what is happening in Senate is just drama. Senators wasted the time of, very precious time of this country, posturing as if acting, acting with decorum. But in real sense, just like the National Assembly, there is a majoritarian rule, it is the same thing happening in the Senate. I can tell you the senators were just waiting to vote. It is not enough, and I think I disagree with this, that you just need to allege. You must not prove. We must entertain and we must now think about proving, not just alleging. I have seen a very constant and a very, something I don't really buy. Makamu Tua is saying that the courts must leave this because it is a political process. So Parliament and the Senate and the Executive have decided they don't want Rigathi Gachagua, so the court should not return him. And if tomorrow the same Parliament and Executive will say they don't want the president, will we say the same thing? Or if tomorrow the same court and Parliament says we don't want, Minister X, will we treat it that way? Should the country be managed by emotions so that it's only who Parliament and Senate thinks they like? I repeat, it is not just enough to allege. we are setting a wrong precedent. The constitutional spirit of delegated power through the parliament, the representation, is disabused. And just like the finance bill, where legislator made a decision against the wishes of the people, that power was again abused. Impeachment charges against state officers needs a judicial scrutiny on twofold. The judicial scrutiny is supposed to be based, number one, on constitution followed to the letter, and number two is on guilt or innocence of those charges. The process going on in parliament is just alleging those allegations are subjected to the vote. As to whether it's true or false or not, it's not it. And I can tell you, when Mutusa was in Senate, he was just smiling. When senators are asking questions, when cross-examination is going on, he's just smiling carelessly. Like he knew that this process is predetermined. That should not be a direction, because as we speak, jobs for 108 Kenyans that were working in the office of the deputy president are in the chopping board. The political career of Rigathi Gachagua is on the chopping board. But someone will tell you, you just need to allege. You must not probe. Because this is not a court of law. Why is it that when heads of parastatal are caught in some corruption scandal, why are we not taking them to parliament? Remember, the heads of parastatals are taken to parliament for scrutiny, are vetted in parliament. But when they're found with corruption, they end up in court, and the courts are supposed to clear them. A very good case is this case of the KEMSA scandal. This KEMSA scandal, where Rigathi Gachagua was being linked, Terry Ramadan, who was the CEO of KEMSA by that time, is currently Kenyan ambassador in India. Was given some ambassadorial job in India after he was cleared by the courts, and is now holding a position. But when it comes to this when it comes to this impeachment, Kenyans, the impeachment is overrated. It is not a tool of good governance, as many would want us to believe. It is purely a political tool. And I think the crafters of 2010 Constitution must look at it in the same manner. There is a mistake that we make, that we are making, that want the public feel, when the public feel unheard, they tend to exercise the direct power. They drop the donated power and exercise the direct power. Away from the calls of restraint. This is why I strongly believe the courts must reign supreme and come to inject some sanity on this impeachment outcomes. I am strongly convinced that the courts, contrary to what is being peddled here, the courts cannot sit back and watch this go on. Rigathi Gachagua also has his rights. He also has his rights. The courts must come in because impeachment is being simplified as a tool for political realignment. It is not, and I want to debunk this. In the context of Rigathi Gachagua, the impeachment has not been used to judge the guilt or innocence of Rigathi, but it has only been used to establish some political, realignments. It's true. The main reason why William Ruto wanted Rigathi out is because he knew that in 2027, And he wanted the impeachment process. And I can tell you that there was a reverse psychology. When the state was pushing Rigathi to resign, they were pushing Rigathi to resign not because they wanted Rigathi to resign, but because they knew that Rigathi would not do what they want. And it has written to where it has reached. This is what they wanted. Rigathi to face that impeachment. Then the moment he faces the impeachment, they get their way with it, and then Rigathi does not enjoy his political rights. Because impeachment suspends the political rights of a state officer, that process cannot be left entirely to politicians. Because it suspends political rights of an individual and it condemns an individual entirely. It needs to be proved in the court of law. Because what we know is it has not proved that Rigathi is guilty or innocent. That has not been proved anywhere. What has only been done is allegations, we vote. Allegations, we vote. We state some quasi-judicial thing in Senate to try to convince the country that we are fair. But in real sense, we're just voting machines in waiting. Why the courts must come on this regarding this case? Well, the organized political class defies the public interest because they have the monopoly of manipulation. I want to tell you this. The public said no to regard impeachment, and even the state knows that. But they have pushed their way because they are organized. The masses are not organized. Now, whenever they try to organize themselves, the state will find a way of disintegrating it. And so when the Gen Z were saying we were tribeless and formless and partyless, the state was very happy because that is what they want. They don't want affirmation. And they will push regarding impeachment whatsoever the feelings of the public, because at the end of the day, they have the monopoly to manipulate. They will manipulate you. I heard my friend Wahome Thuku saying that Ruto will not go to Nyeri. No, he will go to Nyeri. He will go to Nyeri. That will be his next stop, and he will go to launch some water project on front of the Gachagua's gate, and the people will yell at him. I want to repeat. The impeachment process does not judge the guilt and innocence of a person, but it condemns that person based on political grounds. And this is what I think so. The courts must question two things. Was the process given due diligence? And are the charges legitimate? You see, why I'm feeling the courts must get it right on this matter. The next day, how can someone go to Senate and say you have 22 companies? And after naming these 22 companies and screaming headline and running a lot of defamation stories, but when he's told to give us evidence where these 22 companies are involved in a corruption, that he or she cannot confirm. He or she cannot be able to manage. They cannot. But the next day will come and allege, then so and so has done this. And then Parliament is subjected to a voting on that allegation. Then it goes their way. I believe that process needs to give us innocence. Remember, like impeachment cannot give us the innocence or guilt of an individual. The judicial process should be able to do that. And I believe the impeachment should be subjected to a Supreme Court scrutiny, just like presidential petitions and even referendum bills like the BBI. It is the Supreme Court that must decide on such a matter. Lastly, the executive and legislature misuse their conformity. They don't have independence. No independence. There is no way that executive will not be aligned to the legislature. They will always have the majority there. And so this precedent is not one of the best. And I feel that if the courts can look into the nitty-gritties, into the judicial scrutiny of the Gachagua impeachment, then the country can be shocked. I know that there is also another school of thought that the state is managing everything. Even these conservatory orders, they knew that together will go for these conservatory orders, then it will cool the tension a bit. Then from there, now they come and swear in their choice. It's a bit more complicated, but I think the country must look at it diligently. Thank you.